It's July 12th, 1917. In Bisbee, Arizona, vigilantes kidnapped and deported nearly 1,300 striking miners. In Paris, France, on that day, François Fournier, Swiss-French postage stamp forger, died at age 71. And in Wilmington, Ohio, Orange Frazer, lifelong resident, best-known man, and most highly respected citizen, died of Bright's disease in his home on Main Street at age 68. Exactly 70 years later, well after the memory of the Bisbee deportation and Mr. Fournier's forgeries faded, Mr. Frazer's memory was resurrected from local archives when, in Wilmington, Ohio, John Baskin and Marcy Hawley incorporated their newly formed book publishing enterprise and signed their name to the paperwork, calling their company Orange Frazer Press. The question to be asked, and it has been many times, is why? Here, then, are some answers. Mr. Frazer resided in Wilmington, Ohio all his life, though business and travel kept him away from his home many times. He was born in Wilmington and lived on Main Street next to the post office. He began his work when a boy as a clerk in a grocery, but later worked as deputy postmaster of the city. He was known to practically all the people of the town because of this position. He served as deputy clerk of the Ohio Supreme Court for several years, and in the capital came to know many prominent men, many of whom continued to be his friends and kept in touch with him. However, the greater part of his active business life was spent with his brother John W. Frazer in the grocery on North South Street, known as Frazer Brothers Grocery. When he retired from the work around 1914, it was announced that he was the oldest businessman of the city. Mr. Frazer loved canoeing. He canoed the Great Lakes, the St. Lawrence River, the Ohio, and all its tributaries. He wrote of his experiences for the newspapers. It was said that no contributor to any newspaper of the city ever stirred the popular interest that Mr. Frazer did, and the stories of his trips on the waterways, and later his stories of travels abroad, were widely read and copied by other newspapers. Mr. Frazer was a good writer. As manager of the grocery, it is remembered that he wrote the best advertisements about the manufacture and preparation of all the various lines of goods sold in his store. People still talk about those ads. Twice he crossed the Atlantic to visit the Holy Land in Egypt, and all his stories were read with eagerness by his friends at home. One of the most memorable was about the mummy head, which he brought back with him from Egypt, and which, perched on his bedpost, one night related its life history to him. Mr. Frazer was a weatherman, a student of nature, and a man with the public interest at heart. He was an authority on birds. His home was a haunt for many a little feathered friend, and almost every year during migration, he eagerly awaited their coming and prepared and cared for them during their stay. Some years before his passing, Mr. Frazer expressed a desire that at his death, that friends did not send any flowers, but asked that one single red rose with a long stem be placed on his casket. His friend went to Cincinnati to buy the prettiest flower of that kind and used it in the way that Mr. Frazer suggested. In compliance with the request of Mr. Frazer, his friends did not send any flowers. The Wilmington News Journal printed, Mr. Frazer was not affiliated with any church organization and was the farthest from a self-chosen director of the affairs of the city, either in word or act, that could be imagined, but he was a fair and square man, one that the whole world could depend on. If Orange Frazer told you anything, you could depend upon it. If he promised you anything, you might rest easy about his fulfilling the promise. He was clean in his habits, a cultured and refined gentleman. What a match, we think. The very character traits that have reflected our company for 35 years reflect the man whose name it holds. Thank you, Orange Frazer. We celebrate you, your writing, your photography, your travels, your care for others, your attention to detail. We will continue to work to uphold your good name. And now, kind friends, you know why.